So, imagine this. You just hit your fire target and you don't need to work for a living anymore. You hear about the concept of a half-life in Japan and consider maybe living there for 1 or 2 or maybe even 6 months, but finding a place to live in Japan can be difficult. Most people won't want to pay for a hotel the entire time, and while you can sometimes get lucky with an Airbnb, that is not a reliable strategy every time. A traditional rental might not be a feasible option either if you are only classified as a temporary visitor, and it isn't ideal anyway due to the quirks like guarantors, key money, and 2-year contracts. I've spent a large amount of my time in Japan in recent years, and I quickly learned about monthly mansions. Similar to Airbnb, these are short-term furnished properties, except the apartments are fully owned and operated by the business as opposed to various private owners like on Airbnb. These will be pricier than traditional rentals, but they may be great options for people visiting for a few weeks to a few months. I have stayed with various monthly mansion brands in Japan. These include Hmlet, Blueground, Sumyca, Tokyo-Furnished, Exflats, and Exflats. It has led to both good and not so great experiences. In this video, I'll be breaking down each company I have dealt with, and hopefully this can give you some info whenever you need a short-term rental in Japan. We also hit a huge channel milestone this week, so please stick till the end so we can celebrate it together. It's going to be a bit difficult to fairly compare a lot of these properties. Their quality will obviously depend on the price, size, and location, so I will try to mostly compare the company level things, such as their websites, the booking process, customer service, and the value. I'll give each category a grade from 1 to 5, 1 being an outright bad experience, 2 being mostly bad but there is 1 or 2 okay aspects, 3 being totally middle of the road, 4 being mostly good with a couple hiccups here and there, 5 being really good or impressive to me. We will see which one ends up with the best grade at the end. Starting out, we have Exflats. Now this is the only monthly mansion that I didn't find directly on their website. At the time, I had used the weekly mansion website. It is in Japanese, but modern browsers shouldn't have an issue translating it. They do have an official site, branded as Hayagima, and it seems decent, but from what I can tell, it is meant for traditional rentals. But their listings on Weekly Mansion are furnished, and I was able to navigate it successfully. It lets you filter by prefecture and ward, along with the room size and layout. There are even filters for amenities. However, you can't book directly on the site or filter by your desired dates, so you need to inquire instead. I really value the ability to book online. Since their official site isn't helpful for our monthly mansion purposes and I needed to use a different site, I'll be giving them a 2 in the website category. The weekly mansion site is decent, but I really wish we could just book directly and know their availability. The booking process, as I said, was done through email inquiry, and it was entirely done in Japanese. So not super ideal if you don't know Japanese, but you can navigate it with translation tools if need be. I also needed to print, sign, scan, and email them back various contracts and payment agreements, and at the time, they only allowed me to pay with direct bank transfer, which is a bit awkward these days, and that included the wire transfer fees. It was a tedious process as a foreigner, and I also needed a Japanese friend to act as a reference. Definitely the worst booking process in my experience, so I will give it a 1. That said, I didn't have any issues with the apartment itself once I signed and paid. Customer service was prompt in their emails. My only issue was they didn't explain the additional fees very well, but that could have totally been my fault due to the faulty Japanese I was using. I'll also give them the benefit of the doubt and give them a 3 for customer service. To be honest, this was maybe the worst property I stayed at amenity-wise. I sadly don't have the emails from 2023 anymore, so I don't recall the exact price I paid, but I recall it being pretty cheap. You certainly get what you paid for, so I can't complain too much, but this was perhaps the most uncomfortable bed I have ever experienced. All the furniture felt very cheap, and I was very happy to leave it after a couple months. I really hope the furniture at their other properties are better. They get a 1 on value. If anything, it is just sad because of the bed. No price was worth the lack of comfort. Which leaves Exflats at a score of 7 out of 20. It is an okay entry-level experience, but I wouldn't really recommend it unless you don't have any other options. Next up is Exflats, a Sapporo-only offering. Once again, their website is only in Japanese. The search options are helpful in the form of filters for location, size, and layout. The pages for each property are well detailed, but it doesn't actually detail the full costs or fees. Also, you can't filter by your desired dates or book directly, so you once again need to inquire for each property and just hope it is available. So just like before, their website gets a 2. It looks nice, but not even knowing that the property is available once again kills the appeal for me. It is a similar story for the booking process. All done through email and all done in Japanese with contracts I needed to print, sign, and return. But at least this time I was able to pay with a credit card. They were hesitant to allow me to rent without a Japanese person acting as a guarantor, but I convinced them it was okay after a few email exchanges. They get a 2 for booking process, mainly because I didn't need to do a wire transfer. Once again, no issues occurred during my stay that required much customer service. Needing to convince them I didn't need a guarantor was slightly annoying, but I understand that is pretty standard in Japan. I can't say anything bad, but they didn't have a chance to really prove they would go above and beyond expectations, so I'll once again go with a 3 here. I actually liked the property and amenities it provided. I went in February, so the price was a bit inflated due to the festivals, but I can't complain about $1,200 a month given the context. The furniture was serviceable, and the heated floor was really nice. I didn't like the lock on the door since it used a code instead of a key, and I may have locked myself out on the second day with my phone inside, but I can only blame user error on that one. I wish they had more options for rooms with desks though, since working from a couch and coffee table wasn't ideal. This is about as average as it comes, a solid 3. And that leaves Exflats with a 10 out of 20. I can't imagine most people will be using them since they only operate in Sapporo. I was happy with it, but I don't think I would want to stay more than a month or so. It is ideal for seeing the snow festivals. I used Tokyo-Furnished in fall of 2025. It is hard to put into words how much I dislike this website. As stated above, I value booking online and searching by the dates. I don't see it on the site now, but they used to have a button to book for certain dates. It didn't actually work. It was basically just an inquiry button. I know that because I tried to book a place and then got an email the next day saying it wasn't actually available. So you can search by dates from the homepage, but won't know if that is actually accurate. Also, you can't filter by layout or size, and only being able to search within a single word at a time is annoying. The page for each property is fine, but doesn't include the full amount you will pay. The website is not very intuitive, and I've run into dead links as well. Maybe it's just because I worked as a web developer for many years, but I always disliked going to this site. I'll put it this way, I have just adjusted the scoring system so they receive a lower score than everyone else. At least it was in English for tourists. This website gets a 1. Since I couldn't book online, this was another email situation. This one was in English, which is easier for me. It is not until the email that you know the final price, since the site doesn't include utilities in their quotes. That actually caused an issue where I agreed to pay a price, but then the agent realized they forgot to include the utilities. Luckily, they agreed to keep the original price since I was about to walk away otherwise. I was again allowed to pay with credit card, but bank transfer through Wise was an option as well. They also have a refundable deposit included in the price. I paid with the credit card and got the refund through Wise. I'll go with a 2 here. If it wasn't obvious, I really dislike email-based booking. Customer service was fine. It was good of them to honor the pre-utilities pricing mistake I mentioned before. It did take a while to get my deposit refunded, which was unfortunate since I needed to ping them a few times about it. I want to give them 3, but between the mispricing they allowed and the fact they were very patient with all of my emails, I'll give them a 4 here. Value-wise, I am conflicted. It cost about $1,500 a month, and I actually did like the property. It had a good amount of space, and the bed and couch were very comfortable. Lots of storage space and more kitchen utensils and supplies than any other property I've stayed at. The desk was too small for my setup, and it did have a bit of a spider problem. They were huntsman spiders, so they are harmless, but it is still a surprise even after the 12th time running into them. But that is just a reality for some older houses. Also, the screens on the windows were removed from the frame upon my arrival, and I never figured out how to get them back in. It was an older house that should have been cheaper, but the furniture inside was tied for the most comfortable of any property I have had in Japan, and all the utensils were very helpful. The bad is balanced out by the good. I'll go with a 3 for value, giving Tokyo-Furnished another 10 out of 20, which seems fair to me. Make it $100 cheaper and I would have been happy, but I would have definitely been unsatisfied with the utilities included price they actually wanted. However, the property was very comfortable and the customer service was very honest to stand by their mistake, which I appreciate. I really hope they get a better website though. At the time I used them, the Sumyca website had some bugs, but looking now, it seems they have been resolved. We can again search by any area we want with a variety of filters. At the time, this was the first site that let me filter by furniture type, which was great since I needed a work desk. You can search by dates, and it is accurate as far as I could tell. However, once again, you can't book directly on the site. Oddly, only some properties have their prices listed, which is extremely annoying. The website gets a 2. Booking at the time was again done through email, and it seems they have doubled down on it by removing the prices from some of the listings on the website. Not knowing the prices before emailing them prolongs the process even more, but at least you will know if a property is available before contacting them. They also still require emailed contracts, but at least credit card payments were okay. I'll give them a 3 for the booking process. I didn't have any issues with the customer service personally. They were patient with all of my emails during booking and responded to my emails very quickly. However, my neighbors were not so lucky. Over the course of 2 months, I saw 5 different people unable to move into their apartments because they were provided inaccurate lock codes. I waited with one group in particular for over an hour since we were unable to get into contact with customer service over phone. While that didn't happen to me, I feel like I should take it into consideration and give them a 3. Not giving customers proper instructions is an easy way to sour the beginning of a trip, and not being able to contact them quickly was not a good look. I had no issues with the amenities at all. I think the company actually owned the entire building and the furniture was good enough for me. It even had a sleeper couch, which was helpful when family came to visit me. It was a great price at the time at only $1,000 a month, which I thought was totally fair, but prices have seemingly increased since I last stayed with them in 2023. A new construction apartment in a good neighborhood with good furnishings. I was happy with it and will give them a value score of 4, leaving them with a score of 12 out of 20. They could have received higher, but I would like them to allow online booking and ensure their customer service has improved. The room itself is pretty nice, so if they improve the soft skills, so to speak, of the rental process, then they could improve drastically. I mostly like this website. It looks very nice, and the individual listing pages are well laid out and informative. The price on the listing pages are accurate and clearly show the price you will be paying with all of the fees broken down. You can submit a reservation request online, but then they will have to follow up with emails to confirm the details and make the payment. But that is still much better than the inquiry approach of the previous companies. However, I have 2 issues with it. 1, the prices in the search results are always much lower than what they will be in the listing page itself. That little tilde is doing a lot of work in front of those numbers, and I find that misleading. Borderline clickbait. Second is that the actual search filters are not the best. You can't filter by room size or by other amenities like you can in previous websites. The website has a very minimalistic style, but I wish the search engine had more details. It would be cool if you could filter by train line like some of the other websites as well. All that said, it just feels nicer to use this site than the previous websites, and not having to rely entirely on an inquiry to find out the price and availability is great. I'll give them a 3 since I really think this is the standard I would expect from all these monthly mansion websites. Booking an apartment with Hmlet is fine. As mentioned, you submit a reservation request on the site and they follow up with an email that has links for you to fill out your personal details and payment info. They take credit cards, and I believe they are the only company that I have worked with that didn't have a small credit card fee. You can also inquire to get more details about a property if you have questions about the property before purchase. Payment can be done in a lump sum or a monthly format, but the overall cost will be higher if you choose monthly. I think their booking and service fees are kind of high, and I feel it weird that they don't just factor that into the rent price itself. I wish we could book entirely in the website without any email follow-up, but since we will know the price and availability before touching email, I'll score it a 4. Customer service is top-notch. English is fully supported, and answers came very quickly when I emailed them. It seemed like they truly had on-call employees for any issues that might come up during business hours, and every message from them was very pleasant. I never felt like I was annoying them when I reached out. They are the only company that has followed up with me with returning customer promotions as well. I have only rented with them once, but I've inquired with them other times and it was always a pleasant experience. I never attended them, but they also sometimes had community events for their guests, which was cute. I'd happily deal with them again, so I'll give them a 5. The furnishings here were good with high-quality bedding and furniture. The check-in experience was very smooth, and they even have a very helpful mailroom along with a garbage room. Hmlet owned this building, and I think it was built with them in mind, so they had full control of it. My only issue with this particular property was that it was right next to JR tracks near Okubo Station, so it was very loud, but that wouldn't be an issue for all of their properties. I do think it is overpriced at $2,000 a month. However, it is important to note the context. It was a last-minute booking that included peak cherry blossom season in spring of 2025, so it was bound to be pricey, but even then, $2,000 for basically a studio apartment near loud train tracks is a difficult price to be happy about. If I were to ignore the price, then it would maybe be a 5, but I think this should be at most $1,500. The real price makes me think of a 3 in terms of value, but I'll compromise and go with a 4. Hmlet is widely popular as a monthly mansion amongst those that are willing to spend a bit more than the average. You get what you paid for, but honestly, they should be giving us a little more, or asking us to pay 15 to 20% less. The price is the only issue I have with them, and I was happy with the stay at the time, so I think a 16 out of 20 is acceptable. Spoiler alert, Blueground is the most expensive monthly mansion I will talk about. I swear a lot of the money must have gone to the website though, because it is wonderful. I love the user experience here. You can change the language and the currency being shown, and I appreciate that the search results can show the total monthly price with the utilities included. You can search by specific neighborhoods or within the shown map area, which is nice. The listing pages are informative and tell me everything I'd want to know about the property. It clearly breaks down the price, and I have not run into any bugs. They also have a mobile app once you book that is very helpful and acts as the source of check-in information you will need for your stay. Blueground allows users to book on the site, which I love, and it offers many payment options in the form of lump sum, monthly, or pay-in-4 plans, depending on the length of your stay. This is clearly the best monthly mansion site I have used, with the only issue being that the search results don't show the total price of the stay with their additional fees. I wish all of the other companies had a website like this, and they deserve a 5. Booking is a smooth process. You book on the website, but they do a background check on you before the final confirmation. As mentioned, the site permits a few different payment plans, and also a deposit feature so you can lock in the property early on without paying the full amount. They also have a refundable security deposit, so that ups the initial prices. One quirk is that they have dynamic prices depending on how soon your rental period is when you book. I saved $3,000 by waiting 2 weeks before booking, but obviously that is a gamble. Someone else might swoop in and book the property you want if you wait too long. I'll discuss the prices later, but in isolation, the booking process is great and I have no problems with it. I'll give them a 5 for booking. Similar to Hmlet, customer service has been very good. I exchanged numerous emails with a booking agent before I selected my apartment since I had some questions, and the agent was very pleasant and informative. You can easily contact customer service through their app, and I received prompt responses. I can't think of any issues, and providing an app makes the whole experience much better than other companies. I'll give them a 5 for customer service as well. Now for the amenities. It is very nice. There is no denying the quality since they largely deal in luxury apartments in convenient locations. I can just feel it is a step above any other property in this video. The location of this one in particular is great, and it inspired me to start this channel just to live stream the view as a lo-fi music station. They don't own the entire building like Hmlet as far as I can tell, so the building facilities are not managed by Blueground, but the staff are all very pleasant. This property even has a gym and a convenient garbage room. The furniture in the apartment is very nice, and they gave me a welcome package of some basic toiletries and supplies, which was cute. Make no mistake, I love this property, but I hate the price. Mine cost just under $2,800 a month, and I fully realize that is just way too much. I somehow justified it at the time before I was laid off. I find their booking fee especially egregious, not only in how high it is, but in how it changes according to the length of the stay. The property itself is amazing, and I would love to stay longer, but the price just makes it unsustainable for anything but the fattest of fire lifestyles. Even with the convenient Shinjuku location in mind, I wouldn't want to pay more than $2,000 a month for this property, and their huge costs seem to be a constant across all of their properties. Price impacts this value score a lot, so they will get a 3. Which ultimately leaves Blueground with an 18 out of 20. It is the best looking, most comfortable, and most convenient property, but it is just not worth anywhere close to what they are asking for. It is a good choice for those with huge budgets, but not for your typical fire lifestyle. If they were 20 to 25% cheaper, then I could rationalize using them more often, but even that would be a lot of money. When you add it all up, the scores look like this. Blueground may have the highest score in this list, but ultimately your choice depends on your budget and how much Japanese you're willing to navigate. If you want an easy and mostly hassle-free experience, go with the luxury players. If you want to save a little money and don't mind some email back and forth, the local brands are perfectly fine. There are plenty of other monthly mansion companies as well, such as Sakura House, Metro Residence, and Weave Living, just to name a few. I know I tend to value location over most things, and that is often reflected by the cost of the properties I choose. If you are okay with staying further from central Tokyo, then you will no doubt find cheaper prices. I know that is what I'm likely to do with my next property. The ideal life would be owning your own place. I looked into that one time and even spoke with some realtors, but it just wasn't feasible at the time. What did you think of the properties? Would you rent any of them for a few months while enjoying a fire half-life? Do you disagree with any of my scores? For my money, I am leaning towards giving Hmlet another chance, but likely in a less central location. Before I go, I wanted to say thank you. We officially hit 1,000 subscribers on April 23rd while I was writing this video. That was totally unexpected, and I am so happy my last video was able to reach so many new viewers. I was laid off at the start of the year before I could hit my fire target, and I started this channel as a creative outlet. I've always wanted to document my time here and hopefully help a few people along the way as a sort of Japan variety channel. Seeing the viewership grow after the last video means a lot, and has really cheered me up after such a rough start to the year. It would be a dream come true to grow a community that loves what Japan has to offer as much as I do. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Are you currently in Japan or visiting soon? Let me know in the comments, and also tell me what you'd like to see in the next video.